With a number of COVID-19 cases on the rise throughout the state of Texas, there have been more and more requests regarding the upcoming school year. While we still don't have all the answers, we'll be publishing episodes weekly to provide what information we do have and keep you updated on the 2021 school year. I'm Andrew Kim, Superintendent of Schools for the Comal Independent School District. Joining me today is our Director of Transportation, Jessica Fischer. Jessica, I really appreciate you joining me today. Transportation is a big issue or a big department for us. So thank you for joining me today. You doing okay today?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for asking, and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you once again. So let's kind of first and foremost just give everybody a context of Transportation Department for Comal Independent School District. So the number of mileage, buses, folks that are part of the transportation. You manage one of the biggest departments in our school district, by the way.
We kind of compare it to running a city most of the times. It's like its own individual city. So right now, we're currently at 232 yellow school buses. With the new buses that were approved by the Board of Trustees last year and the administration, we're very thankful for that. We are currently sitting at about 122 routes as of today. That's before we get the commitment in regards to in-person or virtual learning. So we'll be removing students as we see them choose virtual if that's what they choose to do.
Right.
So currently we're at about 220 employees. We are 27 drivers down right now.
Okay.
With vacancies. We've got about 10 people in training. Applications were a little slow over the summer, but we're starting to see an uptick now. So we should be be able to recruit and bring in as we continue through the year.
Typically in a non-COVID year, of course, you guys, we typically average how many miles per day?
Per day, I can't think off the top of my head, but it's about 3 million miles a year with field trips as well.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot. Last year, we were probably a little under 2 million with the short stop of the year.
Right. And then I think, if I remember correctly, about 40% of our kids ride the school bus.
Yes, that is the trend that we have seen in the last 3 years is about 40%.
Which is rather significant when you think about it, compared to other school districts in many regards.
Yes. Typically, other districts run into the 30% range. There's some that are a little higher in the 60%.
Yeah.
Ours is unique in the fact of just the miles that we have to cover to get that 40%.
I think parents, because of distance to drive, going against maybe traffic patterns or times of the day, so they kind of rely upon us. Our afternoon routes are more dense, or we have more ridership in the afternoons than we do in the mornings, I think.
Most definitely. And I think most of the campuses accommodate for that morning parent traffic a little differently. They do in the afternoon. A lot of parents are dropping their kids off on their way to work. Yeah.
Of course, transportation always is a challenge because of the fact that we have a lot of folks that depend on our ridership. And then, but going into next school year, it's a whole new set of challenges on top of the challenges we always deal with every year. But one of the most significant things that we've done is accelerate what we would have done probably when High School 5 would have opened up. But we decided to accelerate this decision of converting our transportation system from a 2-tier model to a 3-tier model. Would you just explain just kind of the difference between a 2-tier versus a 3-tier for those who may not understand exactly what that means?
Certainly. So currently we were operating under the 2-tier system, which we transported our middle school and high school students together. So in a 3-tier system, we're going to separate those students out so that we can transport only middle school together and only high school. And typically for transportation, that doesn't mean every route has all 3 levels of school. So not every route will have an elementary, middle, and high school. Some may only have an elementary and high school. Some may only have an elementary and middle. Depends on timing, distance, and then the amount of riders. Where it's going to really help us, though, is on the ridership levels, on our secondary level. They've seen some significant increases in the last few years. And so being able to separate those students gives us some separation on the bus.
Yeah, so essentially what we're doing is transporting elementary kids separately, transporting middle school separately, and then transporting high school kids separately. So in majority of the cases, I can't really think of any scenarios where we might have, but basically now we won't have the mixture of the high school kids. I think in the past, some of the issues that we were dealing with is high school kids with younger, let's say a 6th grader kid in the same bus.
Most definitely.
And that was always
appropriate.
Right. Age appropriateness, and from a safety perspective has always been an issue. Of course, just the crowdedness of that. So this will give us an additional separation. But that does have an effect on school start and end times as a result of that. So we have now an elementary in school start and end times, middle school start and end times, and also high school start and end times.
Which in effect changes your pickup and drop-off times as well for transportation. So we're encouraging parents to definitely make sure they look at schedules this year because it'll look a little different than it has in the past.
Right. And so this is one of the reasons why we're doing the podcast about this. Route system is the schedules are going out this week.
Starting on Friday, and we usually start with the Canyon Lake feeder pattern. And then
Friday, what day is a Friday?
Friday is the August 14th.
August the 14th, the schedules will be out for the new routes.
Yes, starting on Friday, and they'll continue over the weekend. We try not to load them all at once because we have crashed the system before when we do that. So we want to make sure we're letting Canyon Lake go first, and then on Saturday, I believe it'll be Smithson Valley, and Sunday will be the Canyon High feeder pattern and Davenport.
So as parents who are choosing the remote versus on campus, this is really affecting those parents who are choosing on-campus ridership, right?
That is correct.
For the transportation. Obviously, remote learners will be at home, but we're talking about remote students who are choosing on-campus or parents who are choosing on-campus for their children will be on the school bus, and this is the routes.
Yes, so that they'll have an opportunity to review those before we start school.
Has the pickup points in terms of where various places, I know there's always been some issue and concern about some parents. Have they changed significantly by any chance?
So there's, I think, a couple campuses that have made some adjustments based on what they're anticipating for in-person versus virtual. And we've done some changes in the afternoon, which necessarily won't affect parents. It's more picking up students on the buses. We've worked with the administrators so they can release out of different doors maybe and create some social distancing as we're loading the buses.
What about at the neighborhoods, though?
Neighborhoods, not necessarily. The routes change each year based on student ridership and where we have students located. But overall, they stay pretty consistent.
Yeah. So let's now talk about the COVID-related issues when it comes to transportation. So first and foremost, as an elementary student, I'm going to get up in the morning, just like I would do in any given year, go to my place where the bus is going to pick me up. And I got to figure out how to sort of take care of myself before a bus driver arrives. Social distancing, mask, and all that. So are we giving out any kind of guidance to parents who are choosing transportation on that?
So parents who are choosing transportation, yes, we should be arriving at the bus stop, keeping our social distancing. At our elementary level, we always encourage parent supervision at those stops when possible.
Especially
for their safety, for those little ones.
Little ones. Yeah, absolutely.
So just their physical safety. And then now to make sure they're social distancing, that they have their mask on and they're going to be prepared. But if they do not have a mask, we'll have disposable masks available for them on the bus if they forget, so that the driver can give that to them when they're on the bus.
So that's a good question. So then when the bus doors opens up and I get on, I think we have a sanitizer right there and then.
Yes, we do. We have a hand sanitizer placed on all of our buses. It's typically to the left, depending on the bus style, because we have a few different, right there near the stairwell. So they're able to do that.
Obviously, kids can bring their own if they like. And then there's also even a box of disposable face masks that kids can wear. And then are we assigning kids to seats?
So seating charts are nothing new for transportation. That's something we've been doing since I've been in transportation. So it's just going to be a little bit more consistent this year, I would say, and not moving kids around like we typically could if there was a behavior issue. And we're also encouraging, of course, this time to have siblings sit together, which is something we typically don't necessarily encourage because the fifth grader might not want to sit with their kindergartner.
But in this case, we're going to have to.
But in this case,
we are. That's good. So we'll notify parents of that in terms of where the seating arrangements will be and all that good stuff.
Yes.
And then after the student then gets to the school, they drop them off. Then we're going to be going to disinfecting the buses. Am I right on that?
Yes. So we've increase the time in between each of the runs, what we consider runs, where we pick up one group of students and then we stop, drop them off before we go pick up another group. So the drivers have an allotted time to spray the disinfectant, and I apologize, I cannot remember the name of that right now, but we're using it throughout the district.
The peroxide-based chemical, yes. The cleaning supply, the cleaning, I call it just cleaning spray.
The cleaning spray.
Yeah.
Yes, they're going to be spraying down all the high-touch surfaces and the seats.
Good.
Before they proceed on to their next run.
Right.
And then at the very end of each morning or each afternoon and midday, they'll come back when they park here and they'll redo that again and wipe it down and go through the entire bus like they typically would, but now with the disinfectant as well.
If the weather is willing, because this is something I used to do when I was a bus rider when I was a little kid growing up, but you could put the windows down Are we going to allow kids to put the windows down by any chance?
So we're going to encourage our drivers to have that set for those windows to be cracked to create the circulation.
Oh, okay.
Most of our routes, I think we only have 9 routes right now without air conditioning, and they're pretty short routes.
Right.
So we're encouraging them to crack that to create the air circulation, but also so that we don't overheat, because with our heat index right now, we want to be able to keep the air on. So it's going to make the buses work a little bit more. It won't keep it as cool as we would like it to keep that air circulation. But for the safety of our students and our drivers, we want to do that.
And I think when the weather gets colder, which I'm predicting it will, then we're going to have to think about a different way of going about that situation.
We're going to reverse that, the same thing, run those heaters and make the bus work a little harder than it typically would, but probably leave some windows cracked as well to create circulation.
So that's the morning route. In the afternoon route, then, obviously there will be a protocol process of dismissing kids from the classes. And then the kids will get on the same way, get on their assigned seats, and then go out this way. You see any differences there in the afternoon route?
So the afternoon on our elementary levels, we're really encouraging, again, for the campuses to allow the older students to come out first, because that's typically where we put the older students is in the back, so they can all get settled into their seats before we bring out the little ones, where we typically sit them more towards the front.
Okay, so principals are aware of that in terms of making that work. Excellent. And then we'll deliver the students to there. And we also have this, and regardless of COVID, we always have this thing called we bring little ones back to the campus if there's no adult supervision to pick them up at the bus site.
That is correct. So that's one of the challenges we'll have this year, is the delay that might create when we're working in a 3-tier system.
That's right.
So typically we have a little bit more time window to take them back to campuses. So as we talk about that and work towards that during the school year, we'll be communicating with parents who aren't there to receive their children. That they need to be, because we're going to have to take them back to campus.
Yeah, because what happens as domino effect is that if we are trying to safely bring the student back to the campus, because there's no adult to pick them up, especially the little ones, then, that does now create a delay of the secondary route, the middle school route in this case, and then the high school route. So it's all gets sort of domino effect going forward with.
Very much so.
Yeah. So, and certainly we have to deal with that, but certainly we want parents to help us in that regard. One of the things that because we don't know truly the number of kids who are choosing right now, as we speak today, the number of kids who are going to be choosing on campus versus remote, although that process is going through right now. But if we have a lot more kids choosing on campus, we are really right now trying to encourage parents. I'm going to plead right now to parents to do a car ridership, or deliver their own children in their own cars, drop them off, and pick them up as well too, if that can be done, because we really need some help in this area, because we may not have enough buses and drivers to be able to accommodate the number of kids that we need in a school bus to be safe from a social distancing perspective.
Yes, because although we're not able to necessarily social distance on the bus, we are trying to reduce our capacity in there so that we're not having 3 students to a seat, but possibly just 2 students to a seat.
And so we got to accomplish that, because that's the best practice at this time. If not one child to a seat, although one child to a seat is going to be, whoa, that's like, oh my gosh, it's hard to do, I think.
We would need to triple our fleet size, sir. I don't think you're prepared to do that.
Yeah, we're talking about close to 600 buses. Additional 400 buses that we will need to make that work.
And then the drivers.
Which is always the struggle. So we really need parents to really help us out. In fact, we're going to create some PSA campaign to really ask our parents, if you can, please. Now, I will say, though, if parents are going to pull their resources together and do like a carpooling, then do that consistently, so that you're not having different kids riding with all the time, but have set numbers of kids, set groups of kids that you work with, that you're delivering back and forth, so that you're not creating permutation of exposure potentially. So we're really trying to get parents to help us with carpooling, car ridership. That would be fantastic if that can be done.
And I always encourage, and especially in our fast growth, we're seeing a lot of areas where they're putting in walkways to schools. If there's an area where you can walk to school, creating that walking school bus. Same concept though, the mass, the same group of students. But if you have a parents that maybe we can rotate, who's leading the walking school bus to school, that children walk to school.
Yeah,
it's a great way to bond your communities. I've always encouraged that. and it'll just look a little different this year.
Sure. Well, please check the Comal Parent Center. The route system will go on live here on August the 14th, which is a Friday. So look towards that. Jessica, I really appreciate you joining me. I know you're very busy right now with all the things getting ready for transportation. It's a big topic. Certainly we'll have a lot more questions, I'm sure, from parents out there. Well, thank you once again. You've been listening to Comal ISD Radio. Join us next time as we talk about Skyward and student registration and enrollment processes and the percentages related to those who've chosen remote learning and those who've chosen on-campus learning. So we'll talk more about that. So thank you.